Thank you for Patreon now for donating to the Patreon.
Hey guys, it's Vandy Azul, banging on Card 5 Vanguard deck profile. So if you guys enjoyed the like, comment, subscribe, and so shall we. This time we are covering set 11, Brandt Ava. So Ava is the nice one where, we got the upgrades for it, and then she just has, like all of them, a standard on place ability that also triggers a persona ride, and whew, I gotta say, normally I try to keep my opinion, well, that's a lie, but normally I try to keep a little bit of my opinion outside of the, topic at hand. But yeah, no, this time it's going to go for, I don't like the new Ava at all. Like, I can't think of a single reason why I should care compared to the other ones we got. But let's go and get this started, shall we? And just try to change my opinion on why I should like the new Ava more than I like the other ones. First up today, we have the starter in One Who Craves Knowledge Ava, grade 0 boost, 5k shield, 6k base. Auto when she's rolled upon you win second draw cards, and it's just a free draw if you win second. That's all I can say about it. I believe the rest of the ride line requires her, so like you kind of have to run this as your starter, but if it doesn't, I mean, go ahead, do as you will, but I would run this anyways as the starter just because full line. Then we have our triggers. So we have the over trigger in Star Dragon Deity of Infinitude Eldo Breath, Grid Zero Boost, 50k shield, 5k power, over trigger, you have a trigger in your deck. When revealed as a trigger, move that card, draw a card, choose one of your units against one of the turn, and if you revealed it during a draft check, activate its additional effect, which you can double the power and critical of all your farmer units until end of turn, increase the double and power its critical when activated. So all around, pretty powerful. It means you're probably swinging for game the turn you see this, depending on which turn it is. If you're at any point in the grade 3 turns, you are swinging for game. Or, it's just guaranteed push your opponent between the damage range of 3 to 5, unless they actually have no PGs. Then in that case, from 3 to 0, or from 3 to 6. So all around, Elder Breath, pretty solid over. You can choose to run any of the new overs, or not any of the new overs, but any of the Cray Elemental overs like Elbari for the 1 million on rear guards, or Valinup for the stand, or what's the other one? Isphoria. I swear I'm saying its name wrong, but something tells me I'm actually saying it right. I don't remember how to spell its name, but either way, you can run any of those. I prefer to run the actual Nation over trigger, though, for the ones that aren't the Griffle decks, for whatever reason. So for me, it's Elder Breath. For you, can be anything you want. Then we have our normal triggers, 3 copies of Automatic Connector, grade 0 boost, 5k shield, 4k base. Draw a trigger to God Circle if your opponent's Vanguard is a grade 3 goods, 5k shield. All around is just to add a hand card and then just has a 10k shield to it. So it's not bad, it definitely helps filter out stuff. And this draw trigger has actually saved me on numerous occasions with this deck. For some reason, this is the one deck this draw trigger actually likes me, so I will take what I can get. Then we have 4 fronts in Cardinal, Draco, and Pyro. This is quite literally the only deck I run the archetypal front in for some reason. Grade 0 boost, 15k shield, 4k power, continues guard circle, your opponent's Vanguard's a grade 3 regrets with 5k shield. All around, it's nice to have. It's a 20k shield. It's a front trigger, so you get to add more numbers to your front row, and your front row is possibly swinging for 2 things that have double crit, and the Vanguard possibly has double crit. That's nice to have as well, so 4 of in Pyro. Then we have 4 critical triggers in Patrol Robo Decker Cop, grade 0 boost, 15k shield, 4k power, critical trigger, auto rear at the end of the battle boosted, put this unit to soul, choose when you 6k for the turn. All around, nice to have. Like, it goes to soul, and on rare occasions, the deck will have a soul problem, especially if you're me and you play it stupidly, then yeah, you will eventually run into a soul problem at some point. But if you know what you're doing and you're not me, you probably won't need this, but it's nice to have just in case. And the gets 2k. That helped once out of pure accident, and that was mainly because I had set it up to without knowing it. So 4 of Decker Cop. It's a nice crit. It goes to soul, gets 2k. The 2k never makes a difference, and the soul only matters if you're me and you're stupid. Then we have 4 copies of Alterate Spear Dragon, grade 0 boost, 15k shield, 5k power. Just a standard heal, not much about it. I don't like the effect heals too much. They're too situational in my opinion. They're a 10k shield most of the time and only 25k shields in very specific situations, such as if your opponent's same unit is attacking for the second time that turn. So I would rather have the consistent 15k shield over the fluctuating 10 and 25k shield. But if you want to run the effect heals, go ahead. But I'm sticking with this one. Then move on to our grade 1s. First, we run 4 copies of our grade 1 order that is really effing good. Result of the experiment henceforth. So, grade 1, set order. After set orders play, put the store order zone as a research, like most of them. Play this card if you have a glitter with Ava in its card name, which is amazing because the entire Ava line has glitter, and that means you can play this the second you get to grade 1. Continuous order zone. All your rear guards with Obscude in their card names cannot be retired by your opponent's card effects. I hate this, a part of the effect. I know why it's there, and it's really good. Do not get me wrong. That ability is really good because that means your opponent cannot nuke your Obscudoids. Here's the issue that I have with this. Every deck I get to use this against either doesn't nuke them by effects, but by battle instead, such as Vermilion or, what's the other one? Overlord, or they bind them like Shoujo Doji, which means I don't get to use this. Do not get me wrong, that ability is great, because against decks like Bav or Eugene, or what's the other one that retires? It's from Stoey. Or, like, I guess to, like, a half extent, Zorga and Flagberg, you know? Like, against decks like those, henceforth is really good because it prevents your stuff from being touched. But against the decks I get to play against for whatever reason, I never get to use that ability. So I don't get to see the full rewards of that, but I know it's a good effect. I just don't get to use it against my will. And then this other ability, the one is really good, that I rarely use, but for good reason. Act Order Zone. If your Order Zone has 4 more research cards, including this one, put this card into your soul, countercharge 1, then choose a card with Obscude in its card name from your drop zone, put it to hand. This thing fixes every problem at once. Not only does it get Obscude from drop zone into hand, so you can call it out from hand in case you're on OG Ava, but it also gets a countercharge, so you can use OG Ava, but it also gets you a soul, so you can use OG Ava's other skill. All around, henceforth is a pretty solid order, fixes about 3 problems at once for no apparent reason, and it also can, defend your Obscuders from being retired by effects. All around, I like this card a lot. It's amazing. Too bad it's a promo, so it's either really expensive or it's really hard to find, but it's a really solid order, and it has a really good art, especially the Obscure in the background, so I'm willing to give it a 4 of. Then we have 4 copies of Detonation Mutant Bulbamine, aka card that's here simply because there was nothing else I wanted to put in place of this. Great on boost, 5k shield, aka base, auto rearguard, the end about it boosted. If your order zone has a set order and put this unit to soul countercharge 1, it literally just does the same thing as this, except cost a lot less of research cards in order zone, and then also doesn't get Obscured back to hand. But it gets soul, it gets countercharge, that's all I can pretty much say about it. This deck goes from having... That's the weird thing. Over the time I've built this deck, like from all the way back in set 5 to now, the deck has gone from struggling to have back or rear guards to not struggling to have back or rear guards, and then the deck that I have very little back or rear guards, aka this one, for some reason I don't struggle to have back or rear guards. I don't know why, but 4 of Bulbamine, like, it's a solid grade 1. It gets countercharge, it gets soul, and sometimes it just stays on the board just to stay on the board. I can't really argue that point, so 4 of. Then we have 4 PGs in Violate Dragon, Grade 1 Boost, 0 Shield, which is K base, Continuous Sentinel, you have to 4 cells in deck, honest put Guard Circle, choose 1 mute, it cannot be hit till the battle, and if your hand is 2 more cards, choose a card from your hand, discard it. So you're in a PG, not just battle, basically that means if this only and one other card is in your hand when you place on Guard Circle, you don't have to discard one, that's great, because that means you can be as aggressive as you want in the early game, and sometimes, if you're me, or if you just really want to be aggressive, you will end up being really aggressive by calling about 2 to 3 Bulbamines just to see what your opponent's reaction is, and then when your opponent kind of counterattacks you because they realize you've dropped about half, if not all of your defensive power on that one move, and they hit you with the biggest number they can, you can just throw down the PG when you have one hand card and be like, yeah, I don't have to discard, so I'm safe, and all around that's pretty solid. Like, you can use Planet Wall because they both have the same effect, but I prefer Violate because Violate was out when Ava first came out, so that's how I'm going to see this. But either way, very solid PG, helps defend you when you either do something stupid or when you go all in on the aggressive, so what's not to like about it? Then we have our last grade 1, it's the grade 1 of the ride deck, none in the main deck, of an afternoon nap regardless of place Ava. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, aka base, auto when placed by riding from one who craves knowledge Ava, aka the grade 0. Search after 1 research card revealed, put it to hand, shuffle your deck, standard ability, and then glitter, this card, glitter, which seeks the fire it has. I'm still waiting for, like, that card that just happens to be a fire regalia. I don't care for the lore, so for all I know, they probably have printed one and I just wouldn't be aware of it. But I'm waiting for it to be like something where you don't have to read the lore and you can blatantly understand this is a fire regalia. Like, it's called a fire regalia, or fire regalia is. I assume it's going to have something to do with something big on fire. All we have right now is the Persona Ride order, the one that gets grade 3s and grade 4s, and then the Blitz order that is pretty much the competitive community's entire hope in countering the over, and that's probably the only thing Bushy will do to counter the over. So all around, Ava is just a nice card. Like, it's a free order source the second you place her, and because we can get grade 1s with this, that's kind of your answer. You can just search this and auto-place it. So, yeah, 1 of Ava in the right deck. Sadly, she doesn't have a rear guard skill, so there's absolutely no reason to warn a main deck run, but she's still all-around pretty solid, so take that as you will. Next up, we have our grade 2s. First, we start off with the grade 2 order, like we start off with the grade 1 order, and that is 2 copies of Experiment Successful. Grade 2 set order after set orders play when this card is put into your order zone. Draw a card, choose a card from your hand, discard it, and then if your order zone has 3 or more research cards, Soul Boss 1, choose an opponent's rear guard and bind it. All around, very solid order. It has no cost. It literally has no requirement, so if for some reason you end up going offline and chose not to ride into an Ava or a card with glitter, you can just use Experiment Successful regardless, which is nice. It's a guaranteed free draw and discard, which Granted, it's a mandatory free draw and discard, so this could deck you out. I would know. It happened to me once. Granted, that was me just being stupid, but still. It's nice to have. It can also lead to chain effects if you ran the Penguin that can top 5 search once it's discarded for an order. And then its other ability being able to Soul Blast one and choose an opponent's rear guard and bind it. This is the card that will lead to a Soul Blast problem if you play it stupidly, because if you're me and you just spam this every time you get the chance to, you will definitely run into a Soul Blast problem because you're just trying to use this card consistently. But it's nice to have because this deck is almost guaranteed to hit 3 research cards very easily. You're guaranteed 2 of them. The chance of you not hitting the third one's pretty surprising. So being able just to Soul Blast one and kill or bind an opponent's rear guard, therefore not retiring it so they can't like fetch it back easily, is all around pretty nice. You don't need too many copies of it because out of all the orders, it is technically the least useful one in my opinion, because one of them makes a board and gets numbers, one of them is all around consistent, and then the last one, aka this one, is kind of like, it gets rid of rear guards, which makes it good, and it does the draw and discard one again for free, but at the same time, it's like, after that, it doesn't really do much. So 2 copies of Experiment successful. It's still a good order, but you don't need too many of it. You don't want to see too many of it because it could end up causing hand problems, so just stick with a solid 2 of. Then we have our fourth up, our normal unit grade 2s, 4 copies of Obscude Alder. This thing has been incredibly useful, which I thought it wouldn't be, and then it proved me wrong. Grade Gems at 5k shield, 10k base. Literally the only reason I put this on here is because I thought it was a falcon when I first saw it, and to be fair, the art was blurry as hell, so in my defense, I have that right, but it still kind of looks like a falcon, honestly. Auto when it's placed on guard circle. If your Vanguard is a glitter with Ava and its card name, choose up to 1 card with Obscude and it's different in its card name from your drop zone. Call it to guard circle, put it into your hand. If you put a card into your hand, choose a card from your discard it. Okay, solid skill. It either gets you a free 10k shield, which is nice to have, or it just gets you a thing you can use back to hand, and then you got to drop one. On the upside, if they ever for some reason make an Obscude PG, that's just a free PG back to hand for every conceivable reason possible. I know just because this thing exists, Bushy will never do it, but if they ever do, everyone come back to this card. We all know it's going to get really expensive. Maybe just pick it up anyways in case Bushy decides to go high one day and just says, fuck it, let's just print a bunch of random cards. But all around, Obscude Alder is just a pretty solid grade 2. Like, it gets more guarding power, just recycle stuff to hand, which you can then use for OG Ava skill to call stuff from hand to rear guard circle. So I like this grade 2 a lot. It's nice to have, and because it says put, I believe it works the same way like Brody does from the trial deck of Bruce, which I think it was confirmed of how intercept counts as putting. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, please, because I never understand this, but I'm pretty sure that's how it works. It's intercept, and it would still proc off. Even if I'm wrong, I never use it when it's on the rear guard circle. I only use it whenever it's in hand, so take that as you will, but it's still a really good grade 2 nonetheless, so for Obscude Alder. And then we have our last grade 2, and it's the grade 2 of the ride deck, one of in the ride deck, none the main deck, of Smooth Research Progress Ava. Grade 2 and 5k shield, 10k base, auto when placed on rear, or auto when placed by riding from an afternoon nav regardless of place Ava. Search your deck for up to 1 research card, reveal it, put it to your hand, and shuffle your deck. It's just the same exact ability this one has, except to ride from the grade 1 instead of the grade 0. It's good, you know, you get a free research. Typically what I use for this one is I either, depending on what's in my hand, I either fetch another copy of this just to set it, I either fetch a copy of this and then I just don't set it, I set a different order if I have another copy of this in hand just to play this later, or I search the deck for the grade 3 order, again, if I have another order in hand that I can already place on turn. So it really just depends on what I have in my hand, but all around, she's pretty solid. Like, she gets a free order, and that's just nice to have. So one of in the ride deck, and then the main deck sadly because she doesn't have a rear guard skill, but I mean, free order search is free order search. Then move on to our grade 3s. Again, we start off with the order that is 3 copies of probably my favorite order out of all of them, and that is the World is a Blue Research Lab. I don't know why I like the name. It's just so nice and calming to me. For some reason, it reminds me of A Wonderful World by Louis Armstrong. I don't know why. The word blue reminds me of Louis Armstrong, for whatever reason that may be. And then this just, I don't know, in my mind, sounds like, what's that thing? Like, it kind of like follows the beat in my mind of A Wonderful World. So anytime I say the words or look at the card, the World is a Blue Research Lab, the first thing that pops in my mind is It's a Wonderful World. And then I go back to that scene from Madagascar with sugar, honey, iced tea. I don't know why that's what goes through my mind. It just is. Anyways, grade 3 set order. After set order is played, put it to your order zone. Again, it does it for free. This time there is a restriction, just like the grade 1 order, and that is play this card if your Vanguard has a glitter with Ava in its card name. So again, technically, if you're on any part of the line, though you can only technically play this when you're at grade 3, so take that as you will. Auto, when it's put into your order zone, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, choose one card from on them and call it to rear guard and shuffle your deck. Even though most of the time this gives me like half of them being triggers, one of them being a PG, and the last one being something I don't necessarily want to call, but if it was between that and the PG/triggers, I'm going to call it anyways. Yeah, that ability is still good. it gets you a rear guard. It literally does it for free, and you don't have to do it if you don't want to. And not to mention, it also shuffles the deck, so it's not like you're sending a bunch of cards to the bottom. Thank God, because otherwise I'd be losing about a fourth of my triggers in about 5 seconds. So all around, the World Wars of Blue Research Lab, pretty solid. I like this card a lot, just for that ability alone, but its other ability, which I forget about, not because I don't like it, it's just because I consistently forget it has an effect. Act Order Zone once per turn by Soul Blasting 1, arresting any 3 research cards, so it could be itself, or it could be 3 copies of this one. I have done that before, and I think I've even done it on camera too, because it is possible. Choose one of your glitter units, and it gets plus 5k for the turn. Okay, it's not the best ability, because only a 5k, and it does cost a Soul Blast. On the bright side, if you have multiple of these and you have about 6 orders, you can do it as many times as you need to. But at the same time, 5k does make a difference. Because, you know, it's a 5k extra drop, and when you're swinging with a few rear guards that have extra criticals on them, yeah, that's going to be great. Also, Blue Research Lab, the other reason why I like it a lot, is because it can auto-trigger Obscude's ability to get an extra crit. Therefore, you have about 2 units that are guaranteedly swinging for extra crit that turn, and then the Vanguard, who might end up getting one because of your drive check. So yeah, the World is a Blue Research Lab. Pretty solid card. For some reason, it makes me think of weird shit, but it also is just all around very good. So 3 of. I can't think of a reason not to run this, and this is probably the only reason why I like Ava as a deck. Then we have 4 copies of Knight of Blackness Obscude. If this isn't the reason why I like Ava, it's definitely this one. Because his nice puff here reminds me of, like, I don't know what I was about to say, Vermilion, Raging Form. And then also his cape is just so well designed, and his armor isn't that bad either. His sword kind of I don't like, but it's still good. So, as we all know, there's a choice restriction on the 2 Obscude units. Sadly, which is funny, by the way, because back before this deck got upgrades, back before set 11 started, but when we had news of the, news of the choice restriction, and me and my friend did a match, and I didn't realize that and I didn't remember there was a choice restriction until it was too late. I was like, I'll play it anyways. I won that game with a deck with 4 vanillas, because I had both copies of it in the deck, and I was like, I'll just use the Great Choice of vanilla. I won that game with just a pure vanilla. That's the surprising part. And I forgot what deck it was, but it was a deck he's really good with, and I just actively... I mean, it was partially because of luck, but also because I was smart enough just to not use that card. So, anyways, Knight of Blackness Obscude, let's get on to his skill. Auto rear guard when he attacks anything. If your order's on a set order, it gets plus 5k power for the battle, which is almost guaranteed, because again, free set order from either the grade 1 or the grade 2, so guaranteed 18k base. But then if you have 3 more set orders, again, almost guaranteed, he gets plus 10k instead of 5k. All around pretty solid, 23k swing, possible Persona Ride, 33k swing, possible this 38k swing, all around pretty solid. And then Glitter, Ava, activate if your Vanguard is a Glitter with Ava in its card name, so you know his ability will be active once you have an Ava Vanguard, aka if you stay on their whole ride line. Auto when he's placed on rear guard by a card's ability, not just by a unit, so again, the blue world does proc it off. If your order's on his 3 more research cards, almost guaranteed, this unit gets a crit for the turn. Yep, there's a way just to get 2 rear guards with double crit, 1 from Ava and then 1 from this thing. That's the card that this normally calls, by the way, because again, 3 of them tend to be triggers. The last one tends to be a PG or another trigger, and then the last one actually tends to be Obscude most of the time. So I just call him down and get the extra crit. But all around pretty solid for pressure, and then continues rear guard or guard circle. This unit gets intercept and 10k shield. Cool. So if we combine that with... Oh, wait, too far. If we combine that with Absage back here, that's a total of 15k shield, which is nice to have. Also, he's an interceptor that can't be retired if we combine it with this order. However, that doesn't matter because, again, most of the time I play against people, they're playing against decks that bind or just kill things by battle, so I don't get to use that ability. But still, being a 10k shield and intercept is all around pretty solid, and not to mention the fact him being superior callable and giving a crit regardless, as long as he's superior called, is pretty solid. So 4 of Obscude. He's just a very solid, good grade 3, and there's nothing more I can say about him. I do prefer him over the grade 2, because if it's between crit pressure and rear guard killing, I prefer crit pressure. Like, again, I forgot to do the bit at the start of this, but, you know, these decks aren't built for competitive reasons. They're just built for fun and screwing around. So, like, if you want to use the grade 2, by all means, go ahead. I prefer the grade 3, but take that as you will. Then we move on to the grade 3 I accidentally showed off about twice, and that is Poison and Paradise Ava at 4 copies, because obviously you don't run this in the ride deck. Grade 3 to 9% 13k base. Auto, when it's placed by riding from Fountain of Knowledge Ava, search your deck for 1 research card, reveal it, put it to your hand, shuffle your deck, and activate Persona Ride. So all the evolutions have that ability where if they ride from their original version, they do a thing, and then they activate Persona Ride. This is my least favorite, because it's the one that does the absolute bare minimum. It literally just takes the skill, of the rest of the ride line, which granted isn't bad because it does it for free, but like in my opinion, by the time I've hit grade 3, unless I bricked and didn't see that last order, I have everything I need to progress with the game. So being able to search that last research in my mind, or at least for me, how I play it, is in a mission that, oh yeah, I failed and I bricked, so this is my way to unbrick myself, even though I don't need it. And then the Persona Ride ability, the reason why it's actually there. And then its other ability, Auto Vanguard, when this unit attacks into anything, find a Fountain of Knowledge Ava from your soul, search your deck, hand, or drop zone for up to 1 Obscude card name, call it to rearguard circle, that in this you get plus 5k for the turn, and if you search your deck, shuffle it, and at the end of that turn, ride the card bound for this cost as rest. Okay, again, similar thing, all of them have an ability that bind the original from soul and then do a skill, and then at the end of the turn, you superior right that. Well, all of them except for Thegria, but that's different because she focused on Persona rank, so hers had to be special. But it's like, don't get me wrong, it's good because it can now call from drop and not just from deck or hand. And it also gets 5k as well, along with Obscude, but then again, you know, she already got 5k, but this gives more power overall. The issue I have with this is, like, you know, the rear guard is kind of guaranteed to have a crit, but the other ones have had, like, other pressure, like Roroa gained a crit, Thegria gave double Persona Ride. What was the one for Tamiyura? What was Tamiyura's actually? I forgot what Tamiyura's does, but Tamiyura already had like the 5k extra from Persona, and I think she gave 5k to the dolls as well, so it wasn't as bad, but she already had the numbers going into it, so that didn't really make much of a difference. And then Chaos has full board, gets plus 10, and the Vanguard gets a crit with possible double restanders. So I get why, for balance reasons, maybe she doesn't get the extra crit as well to herself, because the Obscude is probably going to have an extra crit as well, but I feel like they could have just given it to her, especially when, you know, Chaos, double restand, extra crit already to Vanguard Circle, but whatever, take that as you will. Like, she's my least favorite in terms of art, and she's my least favorite in terms of skill. Her skill is still fine, but again, with the way I played this deck, her first skill is essentially the admission that I bricked, and this is my way to fix it, which is the sad part. So, 4 of Ava. Don't get me wrong, her skill is nice, and I can't really say anything bad about it. I'm just saying it's my least favorite of them, and it feels like it's the one that did the bare minimum. And then we have our last card in the deck, one of in the ride deck, one in the main deck. Just in case you don't draw this, which there is a slim chance you won't, but, like, the thing is, the first game I played with this deck, I didn't get it, because 3 of them ended up in damage immediately for some reason, and then the last copy, I hit via this thing Surge, but it was between either getting a PG and living to the next turn, or fetching this and praying to God my damage check, the first damage check of the next turn isn't over, otherwise I'm dead. So I chose the PG, and then I just didn't get to ride Poison of Paradise, so take that as you will. One of in the ride deck, one of in the main deck, just in case that ever happens again. Fountain of Knowledge Ava. Grade 3 to 9%, 13k base. Act Vanguard Circle once per turn. Count boss will leave the same number of cards from top of your deck as the number of research cards in your order zone. So if you have 2 guaranteed, then you get the 2. Most likely you're going to have 3, so get the 3. Possible 4 even. Jump to 1 card from one of them, put it to your hand, and put the rest to bottom in any order, and this you get flat K for the turn. Most of the time I use that skill, there are at least 2 triggers. Most of the time I use that skill, there are at least 2 triggers. That's almost guaranteed. Doesn't matter how many cards I search, there's almost guaranteed always going to be 2 triggers. Meaning out of 3 searches, or if I'm searching 3 cards, I can guarantee you 95% of the time, 2 of those 3 cards are triggers. I wish I was joking. There's so much proof I have on the internet. Like, Dear Days, Tabletop, that's one of the few consistent things between them that's actually happened with. It just doesn't matter. But being able to add a free shield to hand is nice, as well as also making an 18k base. And then Auto Vanguard Circle, when this unit attacks by counterblasting 1 and soul blasting 1, search your deck or hand for up to 1 card with Obscude and its card name, call it to rearguard circle, and if you search your deck, you shuffle it. And then Glitter, the searches for Flower Regalias. So, all around, it's nice. It can search any Obscude, and granted, it has to be from deck or hand, so it doesn't work from drop zone like her Evolve form does. So you have to make sure this stays somewhere. So that's what this thing is here for. Worst case scenario, if you don't put on guard, so you can put it to hand to use her skill. But being able to call an Obscude and then trigger its effect to give itself an extra crit is nice, and also being an 18k base if you use her first skill is nice as well. So all around, deck stats, shuffles the deck, and also calls rear guards to get extra crit, all for a cost that is pretty much halved by, or made free by, either Bulba Mine or this thing. It's just nice to have. So one of in the ride deck of her, one of in the main deck, in case you don't hit Poison of Paradise. In case you're me, where the first game you play with this deck, 3 of the 4 copies end up in damage zone back to back to back. I don't know why it happened, it just effing did. Apparently she had it out for me, but take that as you will. It's just how it is. And that's it for the deck. I hope you guys enjoyed. Okay, first up, you gotta admit, though, this does look cool, though. Like, the black. I know it's hard to read, but it looks cool. Like, the black on black with the red in the background. Like, but that's it for the deck. Like, Don't get me wrong, it's consistent, it does what it needs, and I've never had a problem with it outside of that one game, but it just feels like in terms of evolutions, it's the one that did the bare minimum. It feels like it could have gone farther with it. But again, she's still all around a very solid deck. We have the ability to get free guard power outside of this thing. We have the ability to search an order just a reason to search an order and activate Persona Ride, and have a way to get double crit on rear guard at all times for 2 from our rear guards. So all around, Ava is just a very solid deck, so I'm going to end it here. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, don't forget to follow Twitch, and I'll see you all in the next one. Don't stand up, your vanguards.